Okay. So in yesterday's class, we have started studying the concept of message integrity and message authentication, right? So we started with the basics of message integrity. Before that, we also studied the concept of your security triad, right? So in that security triad, we had three things into consideration. Those were your confidentiality, integrity, and availability, right? So earlier in earlier classes, we do have covered the concept of confidentiality or secrecy, and in yesterday's class, we have started studying the concept of message.
लंबा चल
Someone has unmuted. Yeah, fine. So I was talking about message integrity. So can any one of you can start telling me what do you have got or what do you understand in the last class about message integrity? Any one of you, only one at a time. Okay, ma'am. Okay, let me ask. Chaitanya, are you there? Guys, I just need to take a moment. I just need to create a parcel. I'll come back shortly. Just a moment. Right?
बोलो क्या बोलो
ठीक है दूर चलाना hello guys, I'll just come back within 5 minutes. Just hold for me. Huh? Yeah, I'm back. Okay, so I was asking about message integrity, Chaitanya. Can you reply me? No. Okay. Aditi, can you hear me? Aditi Agrawal?
Yes, sir.
Okay, can you reply me? What do you understood about message integrity in the yesterday's class?
Sir, in integrity, we mean that even if someone can view the message, he should not be able to change it or modify it.
Okay, good. Fine. So, what was the basic difference in between confidentiality and message integrity? What was the basic difference between confidentiality and message integrity?
So confidentiality means that the data should not be leaked
Confidentiality is
to
the
any
message has
other
to be
source,
kept secret.
that no one has access over the data, and integrity means that no one can alter the data.
No one
Okay,
can tamper the data.
good. So in the yesterday's class, we started with this one, and then we have come to know that in case of message integrity, again we are going to have a message, right? And from that message, by applying a hash function, we do get a hash value, and we call that hash value as a message digest, right? This one, okay? So this is the fundamental working of finding out any hash value out of a message, right? Then this is how we check the integrity of any message. For example, we have got a message, then we apply a hash function onto it, and with the help of this hash function, we do get a hash value, and we call that hash value as a message digest. Okay, so in this case, this is the digest, and we are calling it as a current digest. And we'll also have a previous digest, which will be with us earlier. And if the current digest matches with the previous digest, this means the message has not been changed. If the digest is different, then we say that the message has been changed, and hence we can discard the message. So this is the basic fundamental or the basic working of checking of integrity. This is how we can check the integrity of any message. Now, these were the three criteria which we have just studied in the last class, and those three hash function criteria were pre-image resistance, second pre-image resistance, and collision resistance. I guess someone has just entered the lobby. I need to enter him. Okay. So, what you understood about these three hash function criteria? Let me point out the person who will tell me about this criteria. Okay, Ashut, can you hear me? Okay, Ashut is not there. Bhubaneswar is also there. Bhubaneswar, can you reply me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, what you understood about the criteria of a cryptographic hash functions?
So hash function criteria is having like pre-image resistance says that from any hash value, a message should not be generated. And the second pre-image resistance says that from two different messages, same digest should not be generated.
Right.
And collision resistance is the result of the second one. Like we need to find m dash which is not equal to m, such that hash of m should be equal to hash of m dash.
Okay, fine. So I guess all of you have got the idea about these three things, right? So thereafter, we just understood the technicalities of all the three criteria: the pre-image resistance, then the second pre-image resistance, and collision resistance. In this one particularly, we want to make sure that more than one means the multiple messages should not be able to generate the same hash value. We need to avoid that one. This is what we call it as a collision resistance. Thereafter, we just discussed the random oracle model in detail, and we have also discussed the pigeonhole principle and birthday problem, right? So I'm not going into the details of these two things once again, since we already discussed in detail in the last class. Okay. Thereafter, we started the concept of message authentication, where we have studied what is a message digest and what is a modification detection code, right? So a modification detection code is a message digest that can prove the integrity of the message, and it will let you know that whether a message has been changed or not. Okay, so this is how it works. So we have got two parties, Alice and Bob, and Alice needs to send a message to Bob such that she wants to make sure that the message should not get changed. The message M should be delivered to Bob unaltered, unmodified. However, she is assuming that anybody can see that message. Okay, there is no problem for Alice if anybody sees that message. But the only thing Alice wants it that the message should not get changed, right? So over here we have got a message, okay, and a hash value has been derived from this message, okay, and this hash value is nothing but your MDC. Okay. Now over here we can see there are two channels. One channel is the unsecured one, and the other channel is a secured one. So over here we have got a compulsory requirement that whenever we have got MDC, we need to send this MDC over a secure channel to the other party. Okay, in our case, the other party is Bob. However, the message can be sent over a insecure channel. So the moment a message and the MDC is received by Bob, Bob again then calculate the hash value from the received message. Okay, and that hash is nothing but your MDC. So the MDC received from the secure channel and the MDC which has been calculated from the received message are being matched. If the MDCs are matched,
Sorry, sir,
yeah.
sorry to interrupt you. Screen is not visible completely.
Now is it visible?
No, sir.
Okay.
Only half of the screen is visible, sir.
Okay. Okay. Let me share it once again. Now,
Yes, sir. It's visible.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
okay. So in this process, again we have got two parties, Alice and Bob. Okay. Alice is sending the message over an insecure channel, while the MDC is being communicated over a secure channel. Okay. So the moment Bob receives both the things, which are the message and the MDC, from the message again the Bob calculate the hash value, which is nothing but your MDC, and from this MDC and the received MDC, both the MDCs are being compared. If the values matches, then the message will be accepted, otherwise it will be rejected. This is a typical working of modification detection code or checking the integrity of any message, right? So I guess there should not be any problem with this, since we have already discussed this point in the last class as well, right? Okay. So
Sir?
now we were about to start the message authentication code.
Excuse me,
So,
sir.
yeah,
Sir, there are still few people waiting outside.
okay. Uh, hmm. Okay. Okay, so I guess now the new students have entered into the class. So we were studying the concept of message authentication code. So as you can see, in this case, we were just trying to ensure the integrity of a message, right? And there may be a number of cases where we want to make sure whether the message has been originate from the authenticate user or not. Okay, means the message which the Bob has received has been sent from Alice or not. So in order to keep that check, we have got one more concept called as a message authentication code. So in this particular mechanism, again we have got two parties. We're just trying to get the concept with the help of again one example. So in this example, again we have got two parties, Alice and Bob, and Alice needs to send a message to Bob. So as you can see, again we are evaluating a hash value from the message, but this time there is a change. And the change is that we are concatenating a key along with a hash value. We are attaching a key as well with the hash value. And the moment you attach this key with the hash value, it will become a message authentication code. Okay, so it is worthless to mention what is the importance of a key. In this example, the key which is being used is a symmetric key, or you can also say that it is a shared secret key. So it is understood that both the parties have already agreed upon this key K prior communication. Okay, so the message, from this message we evaluate a hash value, and this particular hash value is being concatenated with the help of a key, and these two together will form a message authentication code. And the pair of message and the message authentication code will be sent together to the next party. Okay, and the point which has to be noted over here, that this time we are sending both the things together over a insecure channel. In earlier cases, we were sending both the things differently, but in this case we are sending both the things over a single channel, which can be insecure in nature. Okay, so after receiving that pair, again the message will be taken separately by the Bob, and again the Bob will attach the shared secret key, okay, with the evaluated hash value. If this particular code, which is your MAC, matches with the received MAC, in that case we can easily say that the message has not been changed, as well as the message has been received from the trusted or the authenticated person only. Okay, so this is how we can make sure that the things are working fine, means the message has not been altered, the message integrity has been maintained, and the message has been originated from the authentic user only. Okay, so this is how the message authentication code works. So this is a very important concept, because on the basis of this concept there are many other concepts will be derived. So the security of MAC depends on the security of the underlying hash algorithm. Okay, how secure a MAC can be, it will depend totally upon the secrecy of hash algorithm. The more secure is your hash function or the hash algorithm, the more secure will be your message authentication code. Now we have got variety of message authentication code. The first variety is your nested one. Okay, that was the fundamental concept, this one. Now we're just trying to move upon and just try to see the concept of the MAC, which we in general use in our recent algorithms. So in this one, again, as you can see, we have got a message, and this particular message has been concatenated with a key, and after this concatenation, whatever hash value, means hash value and the concatenation with a key will be treated as a MAC. Okay, so this MAC will be comprised of this hash value and this key, right? And again, this particular MAC value is treated as a message, and again this message, from this message we evaluate a hash value and we concatenate a key, and again a next MAC is generated. So this is how your nested message authentication code works. This particular MAC is called as a intermediate digest, or intermediate code, or intermediate MAC. So this is your nested MAC. Now there is one more concept called as a hashed MAC. In this concept, I guess someone has just come to the lobby, try to enter. Shruth has left. Okay, fine. Okay, so in this one, as you can see that the message has been converted into number of blocks, and each block has got a size of b number of bits. Okay. So the message is converted into number of blocks. Let's say the number of blocks are n, and each block has got the size of b bits. Okay, and over here we are again taking a key, and if in case the size of the key is less than the b number of bits, then the key is being padded so that the size will be of equal to b bits. So we paid with the bits so that the size of this key can be of b bits. Now thereafter we have got IPAD. This is the input padding. So the key is being XORed with the input padding, and again this input padding is a fixed value or the fixed constant. So the key is being XORed with the fixed constant, and after this XOR, the output will be of b bits only. So this is your message, and from this message a hash value will be generated after applying a hash algorithm, and the hash value will be of n bits. So at the end, the code, which is your HMAC code, will be having n number of bits at the end. Okay, so the message, this is how the message will look like after converting them into n number of small blocks, and again we are appending a key to it, but before appending we just perform a basic operation with the key. Okay, this is a fixed constant. So since this hash value has got n number of bits, and this particular hash is treated as a intermediate HMAC. Okay, and again it is padded so that this size could become equivalent to b bits. Means we need to pad this intermediate HMAC so that the block can be made of b bits, and again the same key is being padded to form a block of b bits, and another constant called as a output padding is XORed with this key. Okay, output padding constant is XORed with this key, and it will result into b bits. So b bits from here and b bits from here. This will again be treated as a message, intermediate message, and again a hash algorithm will be applied to this particular message, and then your final or the final HMAC value will be generated. So this is the concept of hashed MAC. I guess I'm getting repetitive pings and all. Ankit and Mohammed case. Okay. So I guess this procedure is very much clear to all of you. It is very simple to understand. The only thing is over here we do break a message into number of blocks. Then the block size is of b bits, and we need to make sure that the key which we are applying to this process is also of same size. So if it is not having the same size, in that case we pad them. Okay. Now there is another important concept called as a CMAC. So it is very much similar to the concept which we have studied in the modern symmetric cipher, where we just studied the concept of cipher blockchaining, if you can recall that one. Okay, it is very analogous to that one only. So again, the original message has been divided into number of blocks. Let's say the number of blocks are n. Okay, and those n number of blocks are being processed separately. Again, we have got a shared key. So for the first step, the first block is being encrypted with the encryption algorithm, with the help of a key, right? And this particular output is XORed in the next step with the next message block, right? And then the same process will be continued till the last step. Okay, and as we can see in the last step, we have got another key K. This is the different one. These both, this is capital K and this is small k. The both keys are different one. Okay, but before that, you need to make sure that the whatever message you have considered, if that message is not long enough, then you need to pad it. Okay, so after padding, the equal number of blocks will be created. That first you need to ensure. And how exactly we do that padding? For example, if the message is falling short of 4 bits, so before starting the padding, you need to insert one bit, and then rest of the paddings will be done by 0 bits. Okay, in some cases, after those 0 bits, we do enter the bit values of the message length. Means you do enter the message length bits at the end after padding. So we will see these things when we will see the other concept in the later class. Okay, so as of now, I guess this would be pretty much clear to all of you. And after the last step, the moment you apply the another key with it or the XOR this particular inputs with the key, and then you are again applying encryption algorithm with the help of a key. So whatever is the output, you only select the n leftmost bits from it. Okay, you do not select all values, or you do not treat all the bit values as a hash value. Okay, rather you select the n leftmost bits as a hash value. Okay, this is an important one. And since there are many occasions where you need to pad the bits, so the generation of this key K depends upon that padding only. So if there is no padding, then you need to multiply this particular block with X. Okay, this is irreducible polynomial. So again, the size of these blocks were of m bits, these m bits. Okay, so in order to generate this key, again you need to take m 0 bits and the key which has been taken earlier. So with the help of the same key, we perform the encryption, and the output of this encryption algorithm is then multiplied by either x or x square. If there is no padding, then we will multiply it by x. If there is padding, then we will multiply it by x square. So whatever is the output, that will be your other key, small k. So this is how we do get this small k. Okay, and this is what the overall process looks like. I guess again I got some ping. Okay. So I guess this should be clear to all of you. Okay. So I'll assume that the things have been clear to all of you. So this was all about your understanding of the basic concepts of MDC and MAC. Okay. Now the another concept which we are going to start is cryptographic hash functions. Okay, so let's start directly. Okay. It's very difficult to just go again and again and to let somebody in. Okay. So as we have seen that we do use some hash functions, right, to generate the hash values. Now, how exactly those hash function works, or how exactly those hash function create the message digest, now we are going to understand that one. So a cryptographic hash function takes a message of arbitrary length and creates a message digest of fixed length. So this is one of the fundamental concept of hash functions. No matter what is the size of the input, the output has to be of fixed length. Okay, so this is the very important and mandatory requirement of any hash function. Now, there are two most promising cryptography hash algorithms or the functions called as Whirlpool and SHA-512. So most of the time, we came across this particular keyword SHA-512. So before moving further, we need to understand how exactly those hash functions are being created or are being derived. Okay, so this is the fundamental working of the hash functions. Okay, and this is a scheme called as a Merkle-Damgard scheme, and this has led the basis for the generation of most of the hash functions. Okay, so in this particular scheme, again, the original message has been padded. Again, somebody is coming. Okay. From the next class onwards, I would like to request all of you that please join me within the 15 minutes of the class. Okay, because it becomes very difficult for me to just let you again and again, and then resume the concept. So just try to join the class as early as possible. Okay, from the next class onwards, I will not allow anybody after the 15 minutes of the commencement of the class. Okay, so in this particular scheme, again, the message is divided into number of blocks. So in this case, the number of blocks are T in numbers. Okay, from M1 up to T. So as we have just discussed in the earlier slides, that if the message is falling short and cannot be converted into equal size blocks, in that case, the padding is done. Okay, so how exactly we do the padding? We first insert the bit 1 and then rest of the entries are being filled by zeros. Okay, and at the end we can also insert the length of the original message. What was the length of the original message? So equivalent binary can also be inserted at the last. Okay, so this is how the padding is done, and then after padding is done, the message is converted into equal number of blocks. So in this case, the number of blocks are T in number. Okay, and each block is going through some process. Okay, so in this case, we have got a compression function which is being denoted by F, and initial assumed digest is being passed to this compression function along with your first block, and the output is called as a first message digest. Okay, so first you need to assume the first message digest. We can also call it the initial vector or the initialization vector. Okay, so this value has to be assumed initially, and this particular message digest will be treated as an input to the next step along with the next message block. So this is how the intermediate message digests are being generated. Okay, so at the 10th step, we will be able to have a 10th message digest. And this final digest will be your final hash value. Okay, so as of now, We are just assuming that some compression function works over this and this, means our message block and the earlier message digest. Now we have to see how exactly this compression function works. Okay, so basically there are two types of compression function. The first one is made from the scratch, and the second one is based upon the block cipher techniques. Okay, so we are going to study, or we are going to see both of them. So the compression functions which are made from the script are called as message digest, and the other type is made from the symmetric key block cipher, which also serve as a compression function. And the example of that is Whirlpool. From the example, means from this type, we do get the hash functions like MD2, MD4, MD5, your SHA-1, 2, and so on and so forth. So those SHA family is being derived from this message digest type only, which is a type of the function which has been made from scratch. Okay. Now let us see a few things about the hash function which have been made from scratch. So a set of cryptographic functions uses compression functions that are made from scratch, obviously, and the message digest. Actually, this was basically designed by Ron Rivest, and these are referred to as MD2, MD4, MD5. Means initially the MD was there, then after some improvement it has been referred as MD2, then MD4, then again some modification has been done after some reports or some that attacks were applied, or it was vulnerable to some attacks. So after incorporating those security mechanisms, it has been treated as MD5. So your SHA SHA is basically derived from this one only, MD5. And your SHA is a standard which was developed as a standard by NIST. And there is another example of hash function which have been made from scratch, is called as RIPEMD, Rest, Integrity, Primitives, Evaluation, Message, Digest. So these are the examples of your hash functions made from scratch. And this is the characteristics table of secure hash algorithms. Okay. So in this table we can see we have included 5 varieties of SHA: SHA-1, SHA-224, SHA-256, SHA-384, and SHA-512. So we have included the fields like message size, the maximum message size, the block size, message digest size, number of rounds, and word size. So this is the maximum number of messages that can be supplied as an input to create a hash value, to create a message digest. And this is the block size, means the moment you pass any message, then this would be the intermediate blocks. Okay, because before moving further, we need to pass, or we need to break the message into number of blocks. Okay, and why it is necessary to create the block of equal size? Because of the reason the input size may be may vary in size. For example, we may have got a block of, let's say, 500 bits. We may have got a block of, let's say, 600 bits, 700, 1000, and 1024. And the moment you get a odd size block, so it is not a advised, or you can say clever solution to design a function which will handle the variable input size. Rather, what do? We just create a function which takes input of fixed size. And the moment we take that fixed size input, then the same process is applied again and again until all the input has been taken into account. Okay, this is how the principle of all these values works. Okay, all this compression function works. Rather than designing a function to handle the invariable input size, we do design a function. We do take the fixed input size, and after taking those fixed input size, we again apply that function iteratively until unless the whole message is being handled. Okay, and these are the message digest size, or you can say the hash size of the hash, which will be generated at the last, and these are the number of rounds in each variety, and these are the word size. Okay, in each block, the bits are being converted into number of words, and these are the word size for each version. Now, these are the varieties of your compression functions based upon block cipher. Okay, so in this one, again, the message is divided into number of blocks, right? But in this case, the block is being treated as a cipher key. This K is nothing but your cipher key. And the plain text in this case is the initially assumed message digest. Okay, and this capital C is your ciphertext. Okay, so the encryption is done with the help of this key K, and this is a plain text and this is a ciphertext. And the output, or you can say the ciphertext, is passed as a plain text to the next round. And this process continues till we get the last message digest from the last block. Okay, so this is your final hash value, and this scheme is called as a Arabian scheme. Okay, so am I clear with this one? Any one of you can reply to me.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is another scheme, and the change in this scheme that we use forward feed mechanism. If we just try to differentiate this one from the last one, then you will see that in this one we are using a loop, forward feed loop, and this one we are using in order to prevent the meet in the middle attack. Okay, you had studied this concept earlier in the symmetric encryption techniques. Okay, when you were studying those things. So this will prevent those meet in the middle attacks. So there's only a change that we use a feed forward network. Okay. And now we have got another scheme called as Metters-Mayer-Bossi scheme. In this scheme, the change is, apart from this feed forward network, now the key is your initially assumed message digest. So I can say the key is your previous round message digest. Okay, and the original message block is now treated as a plain text. Fine. So this is changed. Now the question is why we should use this one. This is because this is quite efficient and very much practical in use when we have got the key and the plain text size same. So the cases where the size of the key and the size of the plain text are same, then this particular scheme is very much practical. Okay, then we have another scheme called as Miyaguchi-Fresnel scheme, and in this one, again, the earlier schemes were vulnerable to some attacks. So in order to strengthen the algorithm, this time what we have done, or what they have done, they have just XORed all the inputs. Okay, and then the output is passed to the next round. So in this case, you can see the feed forward and as well as the message block is XORed with the output of the first block. Okay, and then the resulting value is passed as an input to the next term. So this is what is done in Miyaguchi-Pinel scheme. So these were the certain types, and this one is the recent one, or you can say found the basis of most of the algorithms, such as Whirlpool. So what is the time? Okay. So I'll stop here, and today we are going to see, not today, in the next class we are going to see the two very important functions, compression function, Whirlpool and Shaw 512. So don't miss the next class, because that is going to be quite interesting and very important as well. So if you got any question, then you can ask. Otherwise, I'll let the class. Yeah, any questions? Or should I end the class? Any questions, guys?
No, sir.
Okay. Okay, so I'll end this class. In case you have got any question, then you can also mail me. There is no issue. Since the concept was basic, and now the complicated concept we are going to start in the next class only. So it is good if you can go through the concept we have just covered in this class. Okay. So let's meet all of you in the next class. Before that, have all of you put your attendance. Have you entered your attendance? All of you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Please.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, fine. So I'll end the class. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Sir.